Solo, A Star Wars Story is directed by Ron Howard, who took over after Phil Lord and Christopher Miller left due to creative differences. And obviously this is like the origin story of Han Solo. I don't need to tell you what this is about. And, you know, I was excited for this film when I heard about it because it was going to be directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller because they directed the Lego Movie, which I liked, and 21 Jump Street, which I loved. And 21 Jump Street is one of my favorite films. It's sort of, I grew up watching it, and I really, really love 21 Jump Street. And so I was very excited to see what they would bring to the Star Wars universe. And so when I heard that they were asked to leave, and that Ron Howard was going to take over, I was slightly less excited and felt a little bit let down because Ron Howard is an incredible filmmaker, don't get me wrong. But when I heard the news, I just felt that Ron Howard was probably going to make a very sort of safe and sort of by-the-book Star Wars film and not take any sort of storytelling risks in the same way that Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. And he was just going to play it safe, basically. And I think that the reason Phil Lord and Christopher Miller weren't allowed to stay for the whole thing and weren't allowed to finish their film was because they wanted to do things a little bit differently, and, you know, that Kathleen Kennedy may not have agreed with. But after having seen the final product, I have to say that I was kind of right, because Solo, A Star Wars Story is this fun, enjoyable, competently made film, and it's good and it's fun to watch, but that's about it. And for me, as a fan of Star Wars and as a fan of films, I think that there needs to be a little bit more than just, you know, fun, well made. Because in my opinion, all the Star Wars films are sort of, they're more than just films. They're sort of these events. They're sort of these like things that you really, really look forward to seeing, and it kind of brings people together and everything. And, you know, some of these films, like The Empire Strikes Back, so in the original trilogy, have been life-changing to so many people. And, you know, some films have been incredibly divisive, like The Last Jedi. You've got Force Awakens, which sort of introduced a whole new generation to the galaxy far, far away. And of course, you have the prequels, which, you know, say what you will about the prequels, but if the prequels didn't exist, you wouldn't have this.
Do it.
Or this.
Take a seat.
Or this. And unfortunately, none of this iconicness can be found in Solo, A Star Wars Story. You know, it's just fine. It's an alright film. But let's talk about some of the good stuff first. The cinematography by Bradford Young, who's probably most known for being the cinematographer for Arrival. The cinematography here is brilliant. It is so good. And I would say that either this or The Last Jedi is the best looking Star Wars film. Bradford Young kills it with the cinematography. It just looks so cool. And the music here is alright. I mean, it's not John Williams doing it this time, it's someone else. And there are some cool new themes that are introduced, but for the most part, it's just your classic Star Wars score. The costumes, the production design, the use of practical effects, all of these things are there and they work really, really well. And of course the visual effects work really well and everything. But you know, these are all things that you kind of expect going into a Star Wars film or any sci-fi film nowadays for that matter. But for me, what makes Star Wars better than all these other films are the characters and the story. And here, it's again, it's just kind of good. The story is very generic. It's just this heist film, but it doesn't quite have the same level of urgency and energy that Rogue One had. You know, because with Rogue One, they're like, oh, we have to get the plans of the Death Star. This is a life or death situation. You know, we have to sacrifice everything to save the rebellion. Whereas with Solo, it's a lot smaller. There aren't as many stakes. It's just kind of like, we have to steal this thing. But before we can steal this thing, we have to go here and then go there. And after we steal this thing, we go here. And there's not that same level of focus and energy that Rogue One had or any of the other films had. And that's one of my issues with the film. One of my biggest issues is the pacing, because this film is 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it feels so much longer than that. And this was one of my problems with Deadpool 2 last week as well, that we just kind of went for quite a while without any action scenes or any fighting or any form of excitement. But when the action did come in Deadpool, it was really, really well done and it was really unique. Whereas with this film, when the action does come, it's just fine. It's just decent Star Wars action. It's not anything mind-blowing. I'd probably say the best action sequence in this film was like this train heist towards the beginning of the film. That was really good. But the rest of it was very generic Star Wars-y, you know, type action. And I was just expecting more. Let's talk about some of the acting and the characters. Alden Ehrenreich was one of my biggest concerns going into this film. I had seen him in that, Hail Caesar, Coen Brothers film, and he was really great. He had that awesome scene with Ralph Fiennes, Would That It Were So Simple. And, you know, when I heard that he was cast, I was like, okay, fine, he's probably going to be good. But in my opinion, I would have loved to see someone like Ansel Elgort or Taron Egerton play the role. But Alden Ehrenreich was really good. He was much better than I expected. I think he was much better than a lot of people were expecting. And, you know, I like that it wasn't just like a copy of Harrison Ford's performance. He did sort of inject a little bit of his own thing into the character, which was nice. And the rest of the acting is great as well. You have Woody Harrelson, who basically just enhances every film, you know. You have Paul Bettany, who's great. And Paul Bettany in this film, you can tell that he's having a lot of fun. He's allowed to do a lot more than just, you know, in the MCU, you know, playing Vision. And you have Emilia Clarke, who's really good. You have Donald Glover, of course, who's been one of the main talking points of this film. He's great as Lando. All the characters are really good, except for one, which is this droid called L3 something something something. So you know K2SO from Rogue One, how sort of his backstory is that he gets sort of captured by the rebels and he gets sort of rewired to be a rebel droid. It feels like this droid L3 was kidnapped by SJWs and hacked and rewired so that every single line of dialogue that came out of this character was just SJW propaganda, and it was bad. It was really bad. I feel like the intention was good, and the voice acting was great. I don't know the name of the actor, but I thought she gave a really good voice performance, but it just came out in a way that felt very, very, very upfront, and there was no subtlety about it, and it was just really, really, really bad. We learned a lot of new things about Han Solo and how he came to be, how he got his name, how he got his gun and all that, but again, I just don't feel that they needed to make a whole 2-hour and 15-minute film just to explain some of these things. Also, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, there is this one big spoilery moment, and that's about it. There's only one big surprise in this film, and when the surprise came about, I was pretty happy, but at the same time, this surprise arrived in the film at a time where I knew that they couldn't really have done much with it within this film, and they didn't, but it was still nice to see that surprise. I'll talk a bit more about it after I give my grade and everything. But it was nice. So to conclude, Solo: A Star Wars Story, I feel, is a very competently well-made film. I think that if it wasn't called Star Wars, if it didn't have that Star Wars label, if it was just this sci-fi adventure, it would have been a lot more well-received than it currently is. Because when I go into a Star Wars film, I want more than just a fun adventure film. And it's very competently made, and the acting's good and everything, but again, I was hoping for a little bit more. And that's why I'm going to give Solo: A Star Wars Story a B-. Guys, if you haven't seen the film, thank you very much for watching, but I'm going to go into a bit of spoilers now. So the biggest spoiler in this film is, of course, that Darth Maul, who is my favorite Sith character, my favorite Star Wars villain, is in this film. I know Darth Vader's great, and I love Darth Vader a lot, but if you've seen the Clone Wars series, if you grew up watching the Clone Wars series, then it's very likely that Darth Maul would be your favorite, just like he is mine. And you know, when I heard the voice, first of all, I kind of knew it was going to be Sam Witwer who does the voice of Darth Maul. I'm not sure if the body is Ray Park, but I would love it if it was Ray Park. And then I saw the legs. And I kind of knew that it was going to be Darth Maul. And the hood came off, and it was Darth Maul, and he sparked up his lightsaber, and it was great. But that was it. You know, one of the things that made me love Rogue One so much was the inclusion of Darth Vader in that final massacre scene. And so I guess the best way for me to put this is just imagine Rogue One, but you only see Darth Vader in this scene and not the final massacre scene. Yeah, you get to see Darth Vader, but he doesn't really do much. And that's about it. Because for me, that final massacre scene added so much to Rogue One, and it turned Rogue One from just a good film to a great film. And here we didn't really have that one badass moment. And I just wish we had, I don't know, maybe we could see Darth Maul come in and fight Dryden Voss or something. But I am very much looking forward to see what they do with this character next, because he is one of my favorite. He's my second favorite Star Wars character, second to Obi-Wan. And so I was very happy to see Darth Maul. And I have to say that the Emilia Clarke's character, it felt, I don't know, I thought that she gave a great performance, but of course she leaves Han at the end. And for me, I felt like that took away from Han's relationship with Leia. I just feel like introducing a new love interest for Han it wasn't the right way to go about things, because again, it just took away from his relationship with Leia. But aside from that, it was fine. It was a good film. It was an alright film. You know, I gave it a B-. I think that's a very suitable score for this film because it is competently made, but I was disappointed in a lot of aspects of the film. So that's my review for Solo: A Star Wars Story. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you're still here talking spoilers with me, thank you.